The Timberwolves right now are a team that the Cat and Gobert fit hasn't gone as smoothly as a lot of people thought it would have went with
Oh, the
the
floor is
Twin
yours, buddy.
Tower
The floor, yeah.
pairing of the two. They're 4-5, 11th in the Western Conference. Now, OG, you were on the show, and I told you my hot take. It was Timberwolves first seed. And since then, today I woke up in the morning. I watched the Bucks and Wolves game. It wasn't the only game I watched by then because I watched the Wolves a lot. I was wrong about them. It's as simple as that. And I don't think I have to wait a quarter or midway through the season to admit that I'm going to be wrong about this team because there's just so many things to be concerned about. Right now, their starters, they have a 96.8 offensive rating, which is dead last in the NBA by a wide margin, almost by 7 points, which is horrible.
Their second unit has a better margin than them.
Yep. As a team, they don't play smart. They miss passes, opportunities in transition. And the biggest glaring issue to me I see with them is just the lack of point guard play. D'Angelo Russell is one of the worst starting point guards in the NBA. There's really no other way around it. And he's super inconsistent as a jump shooter. He doesn't threaten the defense with drives. He's shooting 27% from three, and he doesn't pace the game. I feel like if the Wolves had a point guard like Ricky Rubio, Trey Jones,
or DeJounte Murray, maybe.
DeJounte Murray would be excellent. No
right?
doubt.
Maybe DeJounte. They traded for DeJounte instead of Cat. Maybe they'd be in a completely
Don't get me started.
Completely different situation right now.
No, for sure.
Don't get me started. D'Lo is better than DeJounte. I was told.
That's exactly what we were told.
The whole panel was.
With D'Angelo Russell, the Wolves are
because you know basketball.
You just called Austin Reeves a championship level shooting guard. I want to hear it from you. I really don't want to hear from you.
If you laugh at that, you're believing lies. So that's on you.
With D'Angelo Russell right now, the Wolves are the 18th pace team in the league without their third. 118 offensive rating without D'Lo, 105 offensive rating with him. D'Lo has been like the main glaring issue I see with the Wolves. There's no doubt. But I just like, with Westbrook and the troubles he has in LA, he's not the only one to blame in this situation. I think Anthony Edwards hasn't taken that leap. He still over dribbles. He's still an undisciplined player. He turns the ball over way too frequently. But I will say this to Anthony Edwards' defense. Tim Connolly, who's the GM for the Wolves right now, seeing that you have a budding star in Anthony Edwards, whose best trait about him is that he's just a freak of nature. He's super built. You want him driving to the basket. They have made it tougher on him to drive to the basket consistently because of the Twin Towers they have and how much the paint has been clogged. There's a reason why he doesn't have a dunk this season. Part of that is transition play. Another part is that in a half court, the paint is always clogged and he can't really get into the paint. Cat is lost defensively, and Gobert, as elite as we know he is defensively, offensively, he's been a non-factor. And the Utah Jazz try to limit that by limiting their use of him. Chris Finch has kind of tried to double down and use him more, and we're seeing his efficiency lower as a whole because of that. The bench has been great. And I talked myself into this Cat and Gobert pairing, and I talked myself into it very good. My initial gut reaction to this was a tweet. Rudy Gobert is a great player, but Minnesota shot up their depth with this move. Jared Vanderbilt, Patrick Beverley were so important to the culture last season. I'm not the biggest fan. They also lost Malik Beasley and Walker Kessler. We're looking at Vando, Kessler, and not Pat Bev, but Vando, Kessler, and
Jared
Malik
Vanderbilt.
Beasley. They have all been great depth pieces for the Utah Jazz. Jared Vanderbilt has been a much improved passer. He does all the little things you want. Walker Kessler in his limited minutes has been fine. And Malik Beasley's just a sharpshooter. Looking back on it, hindsight is 2020, of course, but it would have been better to just keep the core of players they had and then just bank on the development of Anthony Edwards and guys like McDaniels. But instead, they shortened their window, and they expected Anthony Edwards to take this huge leap fast, which I think put pressure on him. And I don't think he's ready to take that type of big-time jump right now. The only fix to this team right now is, I think, staggering Cat and Gobert's minutes and just getting off of D'Lo however you can. That's really it. But I think this team is not going to be a contender in the West. They're not going to be one of those top teams. and I think they're going to be one of those play-in bubble teams in the West. Because the problems are real.
Yo,
I
you
think the
kill
problems are
me.
real.
You fucking kill me.
Wow.
You kill me.
This is
You
hilarious.
kill me.
Oh my
This
God.
Mr. Flip Aside, he knew it.
Play-in.
That's why every single picture of his was captioned Mr. Flip Aside because he knew he was going to come onto the show today. Amazing.
Caption was
Amazing.
fire, by
Absolutely
the way.
amazing.
Flip Aside was fire.
I
Wait,
like
wait,
that
wait,
because
wait, hold
I'm
on.
actually embracing the Mr. Flip Aside name.
What?
I actually like it because the flip is also like not only on my takes, but like, I flip the money too. I'm flipping money. So I like Mr. Flip Aside. I'll say this though.
Don't laugh at him.
I'd rather
Don't laugh.
be-
You're
I'd
encouraging
rather-
this.
I'd rather
The caption was fire. Bro had a
I'd rather
Mustang.
be
Missile
Mr.
Pop-
Flip Aside
Yeah.
than be stubborn and hold my ground on the Wolves all season when I know that's not the case.
That is me.
So I'd rather admit it.
But
wrong.
you never had to be in
No.
this position. You
I
be
be-
going
I
off the
believe- I believe.
ledge.
No, don't get. I'm a very emotional person. I'm a Cancer. I'm very emotional. So I talk.
I'm
I
emotional
talk
too. I'm a
myself into
Pisces.
Things. I stand on it. I believe in it.
We are grown
but
men.
the moment I don't believe in it, I got to take it back. And I don't believe in this Wolves team right now. And frankly, they're not a fun team to watch. Last year, I got up off my seat to watch this team play. I'm like, I want to watch the Wolves. This year, it's not like that. I don't feel that way. There's a brand new fantasy app. It's called Boom Fantasy. You got over-unders, player props. You got matchups. This player versus that player. That's personally my favorite. And long shots. You can win 40 times your money. And if I'm not mistaken, Joel, NBA is coming soon.
Yes, sir. NBA will be in the app in the next 10 days or so. I believe opening night is October 19th, so we'll have stuff up a few days beforehand. That's going to be fun because we have it every night. You don't have to wait till Monday,
Did
Thursday.
you get your code? For the
For
League
what?
Pass?
I did get my code
I
for
got
League
my
Pass.
code too.
Yep, that's amazing.
That's from 2K, right?
Yes.
That's tough.
amazing.
That's fire.
So if you guys haven't already, download the Boom Fantasy app right now. Link is in our description or in the caption wherever you're watching.
So, but you don't think, Joel? You don't think like I'm just being bringing it down to the calm level. You don't think you're just jumping the gun a little bit? Like you don't think these
It's
are
fixable
The
to a
offensive
degree,
guys
but
are
it's
bad.
also teams in the West that I look at that I'm now bought in on. I thought Phoenix would drop off, but Phoenix to me looks like a team that this could be their year to capitalize on a weaker Western Conference, just like they did when they made the finals.
based off of 10
The
games
Phoenix
in
Suns look
November.
amazing.
The Phoenix Suns. Yeah, that's
in the
facts.
regular season, like they always
That's
do.
facts.
They always
Yeah.
look amazing
Yeah.
in the regular
It
season.
was a bad match.
Rev, why are we talking about Phoenix like they just wasn't in the NBA Finals 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Why are we talking
with
about
the
them?
same core?
And no, I'm just saying they always look great
And
in
they
the
won
regular
65
season.
and they
we know
won
we're-
65 games last
Yeah,
year.
we know they're gonna win 60,
Okay.
50
OG,
games.
they were
again.
But
just
They're
you
gonna
winning.
be
didn't
amazing in the
know.
regular
But
season.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a
Rick,
fan
you
of
didn't
Phoenix
know
either.
that because you had them as a playing team as well coming into the season.
Yes, but I thought that's because of the
Yes,
Robert
but
Sarver,
that's
not because of
over.
the team.
That,
You also
I know
had
I
them
did,
as a
but
playing
I'm
team.
saying that
Y'all
but,
ass was
but I'm
smoking
saying
some
the drama,
crazy shit.
the drama in Phoenix obviously doesn't matter because they're playing great. Aiton is bought in. That's over.
But I know I'm just saying, in November, 10 games
Okay.
in, I don't know how that.
Bro, y'all had them
switches
as a
from-
play-in team, though?
That switches from a playing team that they could win a championship. That's a quick
What team
switch.
right now is
Like,
better
that's
than
what I'm saying.
Phoenix
That's a quick
that you can think of? That are playing
Right
in
now,
the West
than the
that's playing
Bucks.
better than them. Yeah.
Oh, in the West? I mean, nobody right now. They're playing the best basketball. That doesn't mean you go from quickly saying this could be a playing team to no, this team could win a I just
Portland's
Portland.
been amazing.
Portland is
Listen
playing
to
better
this.
That's all I'm
basketball.
saying.
I think Phoenix will finish above Minnesota.
Yeah, they did.
What? They just
did.
beat
They
their ass
did.
without
They did.
Damian or
I think-
Simon.
I think Phoenix will finish above Minnesota. I think Denver's finishing above Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Clippers figured out they finish above Minnesota. Memphis as well.
Memphis.
I have them over
Memphis?
Minnesota.
Pelicans.
I'm not
Y'all
sleeping on the
Memphis,
Warriors.
man.
The Pelicans are still they have to prove themselves. They're kind of like Minnesota.
They'll finish.
Nah,
They'll
Pelicans
finish
like
better
Could,
than the
for
Timberwolves.
sure. They could for sure.
They will. Would you want to make a bet right now?
He's already not. It's great you mentioned that because he's
Oh,
already
oh,
going to lose
that's
100 to
sister.
me with a bet that we have already. But I'm gonna keep that quiet.
Listen, Pee Wee. I've been losing money left and right on Boom Fantasy. My legs
To
don't
Drew
be
as
hitting.
well,
It's always one.
and to Drew.
I can't afford to make more bets right now.
I
So,
like that. I like that.
I just named about four or five teams, and there are more that I can name. Portland looks amazing right now. I think Chauncey Billups. That's actually my this week in the NBA. Chauncey Billups has done an amazing job with Portland. The West is tough. It is, and I think Minnesota, in the midst of them trying to figure all this out, teams have already been figuring themselves out on their identity and how they want to play. So until the Wolves figure it out, and it's apparent that okay, this is the way they're going, then I can buy in. But right now, it feels like the Timberwolves solution to figuring out their problems is don't play Cat and Gobert together. And that was supposed to be the solution. So now that that's a problem, what's this team ceiling really?
Another issue also really is, like you mentioned, Anthony Edwards really hasn't been able to be consistently great offensively. You mentioned D'Lo perfectly. I mean, he has just been horrible on in every aspect. But really,
the disappointment on your face.
But really, what it comes down to, and why I can't be as overreactionary as Joel is being, which I can understand. He was super high on them. They have just been completely disappointing compared to his expectations. I can understand switching a little bit, but to say that they're in that bubble of the play-in, Anthony Edwards really hasn't been able to get it going. I believe in Anthony Edwards. I believe in his abilities. Karl-Anthony Towns, I believe in his offensive abilities as well. Gobert is still a solid defender. I think once they get into that, once they find their identities offensively and they get back to playing the basketball that they know they can offensively, speaking specifically Anthony Edwards and Karl-Anthony Towns, I think that they'll be all right. I think that right now we're seeing these two struggle to play at a high level offensively together, and I think that once they do, they'll figure it out.
I think, I don't know. I think just it's still a little too early, especially for a new team. You know, a new team that's trying to fit in a new piece, a major piece like Rudy Gobert. It's still a little too early. Sometimes it could take 2-3 months for a team to figure it out. But once they figure it out, they get it going. They can run the tables. But I'm not saying that it could happen for Minnesota. It could not happen. I just think it's a little too early to jump the gun. But I think really what's killing them the most is point guard play. I think when you have two big men like that in Cat and Rudy Gobert especially, you need a point. I mean, you look at Cleveland on the other side. You look at the point guard play of Garland when he was out, D. Mitch, and you look how Mobley looks, Allen looks. I think having that consistent point guard, which should have been D'Lo, because we know D'Lo, when he's on his shit, is a good playmaker. He's a streaky shooter, but when he get it going, he get it going. He just hasn't been able to get it going, and that's a problem. I think that's something, especially in the guy who is going to be closing your lineups and the guy who's starting for your team. He's one of the big. I think he's just
Riv,
can I add something real quick? Out.
I really do want to add this, and I wasn't kidding when I said this before. They should have been the ones to trade for DeJounte Murray. I understand what D'Lo gave you last season in the regular season, but you had to understand that DeJounte Murray was an upgrade, and for what the team needed, he was going to benefit that.
But was he a good?
It would have cost you. It would have cost you less. You would have had someone that could facilitate the offense, that you could initiate the offense with, and I think that you need that, especially with the cost that Gobert came with. You would have got him for two less. You would have got him for two less picks and less role players that you would have had to give up.
Well, yeah, I
Do you think the Spurs just wanted to get him out of the West too, though?
That's a fair point to make. That's a fair point.
Good point.
I think when it comes to DeJounte Murray, Minnesota would have been a great landing spot, and they wouldn't have given up their role players for him. The thing that I feel like when talking about Rudy Gobert, I feel like he gets unfairly criticized sometimes, but some of it is warranted. When you have a player like him, you have to have ultimate spacing on your roster. There's a reason why Utah shifted from being a defensive first team to then saying, we need to go and get Mike Conley to pair up with Donovan Mitchell. We have to go get Bojan Bogdanovic to space the floor even more. We need Royce O'Neal. Rudy Gobert was surrounded by 4 sniper shooters. With the Minnesota Timberwolves, D'Lo is not a sniper. Edwards is not a sniper. McDaniels is not a sniper. Cat is the only legit floor spacer, but his game is more than just being a floor spacer.
For sure.
So now, you don't have a plethora of spacing to provide a team that has 2 big men, and I think that's the major problem with Minnesota right now. And that's why, to me, it's kind of hard to see such a sharp turnaround, because when you add a player of Rudy Gobert's caliber, yes, there's a learning curve. With Cleveland, it doesn't seem like there's one at all. Why? Because they got a player to fit exactly what they needed. They needed more guard play. They needed more creators on the offensive side of the ball. Mitchell was a perfect fit for Cleveland. I don't think that Gobert was a perfect pairing for Minnesota, and the questions about them have been right.
I don't think you thought that when it initially happened, though, did you?
Mitchell to Cleveland or Minnesota?
No, when they got Rudy, you didn't think that was a perfect fit. They just made a move because this Minnesota, they have no other. They have to take advantage when they do have these type of situations to acquire a player that's at that level. So they jumped the gun. They made an attempt. It didn't work, or it's not working, and they gotta deal with that.
I actually did think
They gotta
I
deal
actually
with that.
did, Pee Wee.
Yeah,
I
me
thought
too.
it was a good thing, and the reason why I thought it was a good thing is because they made that move primarily because of what happened in the playoffs. They got beat up, and they needed some muscle in the middle. They needed a defender, they needed a rebounder, they needed a rim protector, and they didn't have that. 3 of the 4 games that they lost, they were plus 10 in all of those games, and they basically got roughed up, and that's why Memphis beat them. So to bring Rudy in,
So let me ask you a question then. What does that say about Karl Anthony Towns going
I was
forward?
absolutely,
He
I was
can't.
absolutely getting to that.
Okay. Okay, my
I
bad
was
then. Go
absolutely
ahead.
getting to that. So they got roughed up moving forward. So he was going to be their anchor defensively, and I was thinking about him in the aspect of Dirk and Tyson Chandler. That's what it was going to look like. And he wasn't going to have the responsibility of having to guard the 5-man, having to guard Joker, having to guard Embiid, having to guard Bam. I don't have to do that anymore because Cat is here. So that means that I can expand myself offensively because Rudy's going to speed the game up because he's going to clean glass. We're going to be able to get out more. But I'm watching him last night, and I don't know if I know I'm getting a little bit older and my sight is going, but I watched that game last night, Pee Wee, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you. He ain't want nothing to do with Giannis. He didn't want nothing to do with him. Giannis did whatever he wanted, got whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. And I'm thinking to myself, well, now Cat moves to the 4, which is his natural position. When he played that at Kentucky, and he was the best at it. So now he's going to play the 4 now and be back to that guy. Only except he's playing the 4, and he looks lost.